Well, ladies, it's Mr. O'Sullivan. Today we're going to be looking at lesson 3-2, graphing equations of lines. Today's learning target is, I can graph a linear function by identifying the slope, y-intercept, and using a calculator. The steps for graphing a linear function are pretty straightforward. The first thing you have to do is identify your slope and your y-intercept, but it's very important to know that your equation must be in y equals mx plus b form. When we say y equals mx plus b form, we're really talking about slope-intercept form. So we want our equation to be in slope-intercept form. If your equation's not in slope-intercept form, you have to do a little algebra. Step 2 says, plot your y-intercept first. So when we say we're plotting our y-intercept, not that file. When we say we're plotting our y-intercept, we want to see where we're crossing our y-axis. So an example of a y-intercept would be a point like this. So we're always plotting on this axis first. Then we're going to plot our next point by using our slope. Remember, slope is equal to rise over run. When we say rise, we're talking about going up or down. And when we're talking about running, we're just talking about going to the right or to the left. And then you just keep on plotting points until you run out of room. So how it's going to work is we're going to graph them by hand, because I want you to know how to graph them by hand, and you can use a calculator to check your answer. So the first equation is y equals 6x minus 1. Well, we know that if an equation's in y equals mx plus b form, we can go ahead and graph it. We can graph this because it's in mx minus or plus b form. The m stands for our slope, and the b stands for our y-intercept. So if I look at this equation, I can identify my slope and I can identify my y-intercept. If I look, my slope is 6 over 1, because the 6 is really over 1. Whenever I see a whole number, I like to put it over 1, because then I know that I have to run something. So I can say m is equal to 6 over 1, and my y-intercept, in this case, would be a negative 1. So I'm going to go to my y-axis, and I'm going to plot at negative 1. So if I look right here, I'm going to plot a point right there. Now, since my slope is positive, I'm going to go up 6 and to the right 1. So I'm going to go up 6 and to the right 1. So I go up 6 and to the right 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right 1. And I plot a point at 1, 5. Now I'm going to go up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 6. I end up off my graph, so I'm not going to plot a point up there. So I'm going to go back to my y-intercept, and instead of going up 6 and right 1, I'm going to go down 6 and left 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And I plot a point at negative 1, negative 7. And now I draw a line going through my points. And that's your answer. Y equals 6x minus 1. Now, when I say we can use our calculator, we can use our calculator to graph it. I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to type 6x minus 1. I'm going to hit graph, and that actually sort of looks like my graph that I just drew. I'm going to hit second graph, and if you look, at negative 1, I get negative 7. That works. At 0, I get negative 1. That works. At 1, I get 5. That works. So this works perfectly. So at negative 1, I get negative 7. At 0, I get negative 1. And at 1, I get 5. So you don't have to do a table of values. I like to do a table of values sporadically just to make sure I understand what I'm doing. But for the most part, with linear functions, we should be able to graph them by hand. Now, number 2, y equals 2/3 x plus 1. If we look, we can identify our slope. Our slope is 2/3 because that's the number attached to our x. So I'm going to rise 2 and run 3 to the right. My y-intercept is a positive 1 because it's a positive sign. Now I go to my y-axis and I plot a point at 1. Now I'm going to go up 2 and right 3. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And I plot a point right here. Now I'm going to go up another 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and plot a point at 6, 5. Now I'm going to go up another 2 and write 3, so 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and I plot a point at 9, 7. And now I ran out of room. So I'm going to go back to my y-intercept. Instead of going up 2, right 3, I'm going to go down 2, left 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So at negative 3, negative 1, I plot a point. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Wait, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So at negative 6, negative 3, I plot a point as well. Now, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Negative 9, negative 5, I plot a point as well. Oop, I plot a point, negative 9, negative 4. Ooh, I did it again. Perfect. Now that's my line, and I just draw a line going through those points. And that's it. Y equals 2/3 x plus 1. Now let's go on to our next page. Number 3. F of x equals negative 2x plus 5. Remember, whenever you see f of x, that's just a fancy way of saying y equals. So I'm really just graphing y equals negative 2x plus 5. If I look, my slope is negative 2 over 1, and my y-intercept is 5. So I'm going to go to my y-axis and plot the point 5 first. And now, since my slope is negative, I'm going to go down 2, right 1. So I'm going to go down 2, 1, 2, right 1. 1, 2, right 1, 1, 2, right 1, 1, 2, right 1. And I just keep on going down 2 and right 1 until I run out of room. I run out of room. Now I go back to my y-intercept. Instead of going down 2, right 1, I go up 2, left 1. So 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1. And now I draw a line going through my points. Just a heads up, your line does have to be straight. And then I can just write f of x equals negative 2x plus 5. Now, number 4, y equals negative 1/2 x plus 7. If I look at this function, or equation, my slope is negative 1/2. So I'm going to go down 1, right 2, and my y-intercept is 7. So I'm going to plot a point right here. So I'm going to go down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, and then down 1, right 2. Then I go back to my y-intercept and I go up 1, left 2, up 1, left 2, up 1, left 2. And then I draw a line going through those points. And now I have y equals negative 1/2 x plus 7. And that's how you graph a line. If you have any questions, email myself or Ms. Townsend.